I'm Brandon Stone. I'm a strength and conditioning coach at 10th Special Forces Group. I've been there since about 2013. Before that, I was at 7th Special Forces Group. At both places, I did our bridge program at 7th Group. I do our bridge and education programs at 10th Group. Before that, I was the head strength coach at a junior college you've never heard of and don't care about, where I also served as their recruiting coordinator and head assistant baseball coach. Before that, I was an assistant strength and conditioning coach at the University of Denver. So, been fortunate to be around very, very good people, and I guess I'll start with that. First of all, I'd like to thank Tyler Christensen and the NSCA for having me for a second time. Obviously, there's been a lot of people, I forget who said it earlier, but they said, or Brian Mann said yesterday, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's kind of how I feel. If I've done anything in my career, I've only been able to do it because of the people that have allowed me to grow and to succeed. Our staff at 10th Group, I'm very biased, but I think we're one of the best in the nation. We're able to set our egos aside, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit today. But and I'm going to kind of point out two guys that speak after me that are both 10th Group guys that I think are very, very intelligent, good quality people. So, and then the last thing is, if you've been in this realm long enough, we've all lost people. The grim reality that Colonel Grossman talked about the other day is true. And for those of you that are just getting into this industry, or you're kind of at a third-party state, understand that for us that are in this day in and day out, that literally 365 days, I had a guy text me this morning, want to jump back on a program that we got to do some training with a couple weeks ago. So for us, it's kind of never-ending in a good, positive way. But understand that for me, part of this presentation is definitely dedicated to a lot of guys that we've unfortunately lost since we've been in this. So back to the basics, a common sense approach to training the tactical athlete, just like it says. So bottom line up front, we're going to kind of go over our why. Why do we do what we do at 10th Group? And that's going to be the resounding question that we keep asking ourselves time after time. If you've read the book like Legacy by James Kerr, one of the second principles of the All Blacks is when you're on top of your game, change your game. We've been very fortunate at 10th Group to grow exponentially, especially before I got there. Those guys, Paul Goldberg, our coordinator, and our staff before I got there, they did a great job of laying the groundwork. And then as we've grown, we've really challenged ourselves to kind of change and ask why and ask how we can get better. And that's kind of where this started from. The what are our basics, what are our variables, and what outcomes are we looking for? And then third, I'll go over kind of how we apply this from a process and a performance standpoint. So our why. We have an internship program, and it's really been good for us because we have told them, and it's allowed us, we read everything skeptically, almost from a prove me right and wrong standpoint at the same time, especially in an internet-driven world. Somebody once told me anybody can write a book, and it's very true. Anybody can write something. Even research has its limitations, so you've got to make sure that you read it with a skeptical eye, and that's really what we've tried to do. And then, so we're like, okay, well, what's our why? So we know those two things. And the third thing is if we break this thing down for our guys, it's a SAID principle and progressive overload. You're going to adapt to what we impose. We've got to overload you in some capacity, shape, or form for us to get any type of outcome, okay? And the biggest thing is our why. So we kind of started going back, and I guess the story of how this started is guys are getting strong, guys are getting better. We're asking and answering a ton of questions every day, to the point where we finally went back in the office one day and I go, I feel like all we do is answer questions. We're not really coaching. I'm answering simple things, or what we think are simple, and what we think are simple sometimes they don't. If you were in Nate's talk earlier, he talked about, and we kind of hit on this a little bit, our guys are elite at their job. They're not necessarily elite in the weight room. And what we determine as coaches coming from another elite performing background, it's different. They're very elite at what they do. But they come in the weight room, and that's not always their background. That's not always their strength. So we've kind of got to understand that as we ask why. Our process, we're like, okay, well, do we have levels of where we want guys to go throughout their career? Like, are we thinking about this longitudinally, or are we looking at this from like an 8-week process? If we get our guys consistent for more than 4 weeks, it's a miracle. And if you're in this realm, you are shaking your head because you know it's true. However, we've got to look at this thing as 4 weeks here, 8 weeks there, 2 weeks there, and then the next thing you know, it's 4 years later. What's our progression look like? What's our process? And then kind of that iceberg mentality. Is it complex for us underneath, but then all they're seeing is this little peak outside the water? They're seeing this simple version, right? And that's kind of the basis of the talk is we can take these simple variables and go down the rabbit hole. We can go down the rabbit hole of strength and of unilateral versus contralateral and of modalities and you name it. There's all those things that we can have conversations on. But the bottom line up front for these guys is I want to be able to get it and I want to go. And I want to get better. I want to see those results. So were we doing that for them, or are we creating this culture of these guys are simply just asking us questions because it takes them an hour and a half to get through a 45-minute workout? And then the third thing, performance. So we've been able to add to our staff. So this fancy thing our mental performance specialist kind of came up with, because I said, hey man, what does performance mean to you? Because we've all heard like here is what separates athletes, right? Our guys are nails up here a lot of times. Everything else, a little iffy, right? And it's not their fault. In fact, I remember when I went to 7th group in 2012, and I look like I do now, maybe a little lighter back then, but I roll in, and I'm working with Greg, and it's my first day, and he goes, where do you come from? And I told him, and he goes, I've never heard of the junior college. I'm like, yeah, no one has. And then I kind of give him something, and he goes, well, let me ask you this. How are you going to make me a better operator because I've stayed alive doing what I've been doing? And I said, that's a great question. I don't know. So it's taken me 4 years for me to find ways to say, if you do this way, you can be better as an operator. I've never been on a deployment. So for me, it's showing them that performance has a holistic approach. We have an amazing dietitian, God bless her soul, who has to deal with just ridiculous questions sometimes from our guys or their wives. We have a data analyst who is awesome, and I'll show you here at the end. He's speaking after me at a different room. What we are able to do from an analytics standpoint and the way that we set our databases up is amazing. So for us, it's like, okay, well, how can we integrate all these people to help our guys and simplify this process? So to answer that question, our why. So Tony Federico is one of our strength coaches. He's 55. He's been a lot of good places, and he is our godfather. He's the guy that we go to when we need to sit at the table, and he challenges us. His biggest thing, the objective of our guys is we want to create confidence, discipline, and performance. Okay, confidence, and I'll get into our goal why of what our overall goal is on the next slide, but confidence that I can attack anything. They're confident at their job, but they're not always confident in the weight room. We can create that parallel. The second thing, if we can create discipline, and I love, we'll get interns that come in and like, I'm going to teach these guys about discipline and teamwork, and I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. They teach us about that. What they do standing next to each other, what they're asked to do and sacrifice, we can't imagine. But if we get them for 4 weeks, the discipline of, am I eating the right things? Am I doing soft tissue or warming up even? I mean, I'm not kidding you. Getting guys to warm up for more than 5 minutes, and these guys will tell you, Greg will laugh, when we were in 7th group, we had to find creative ways because we would have guys go, I'm not getting on all fours. That looks, and I can't say the word, but that looks a certain way that I'm not going to do that. So you better give me something that I can do. So the discipline to do the daily things, right? The discipline to do it when they're downrange. And part of that is if they're bought into us, they're going to do it. Well, if they're asking you questions all the time, are they really buying in, right? The huge buzzword, are they buying into what you're doing? The bottom line is they may not believe you because all they do is ask questions because they don't understand what you're asking them to do. The process, longitudinal, I hit on that, right? What's the length of their careers? If you look on the other side, we average 22 to 50 years old. That's just a little bit bigger of a gap range than pro or college sports, right? So on a team, and I'm not kidding you, you could have a captain who's 22, 23, fresh out of West Point, thinks he's the man, and you're going to have crusty team sarge who's 39, who's been in this a little bit, right? And then you have a chief warrant officer who's got a mustache and he's probably 42, and he's just trying to stay in the game. And they're on the same team, and they want the same program, and they're going to the same place, and they're asked to do the same thing. Are we looking at their process longitudinally? Or are we just saying, hey, man, here's a sheet of paper, go and run with it. And I'm going to turn around and call it tactical strength and conditioning. And then performance, we're systems-based. We like to take concepts from different things that we know have worked and that our guys tell us. And Nate hit on this earlier. We ask our guys. We value their input. They trust us and we trust them. That trust is huge for us. I feel like, man, I was like this as a young coach. We get in this situation, I'm the subject matter expert. I know what I'm doing in the weight room. What the truth is that we don't know their world that often. The easiest way to create buy-in is to ask them, to care about them, which is why a lot of us do what we do. But I feel like sometimes when we talk about this, we forget that. You get going and you're rolling, and the next thing you know, it's Friday afternoon and you've completely forgot what happened in Monday. And so we really talk about why marry one tenant. We have a sports psych. He's very, very good. Excuse me, I can't say that anymore. He's a mental performance specialist. He's very, very good at what he does. Why would I not use him in our program? Our data analyst, our testing capabilities are huge. Why would we not use that? And then how can we simplify that so the guy goes, oh, okay, I got to do this and I got to stay between 145 and 150 on my heart rate? Done. I can do that. It's simple. He gets that. If I got to go into the bottom of the iceberg on why all these things and I write it down in a confusing manner, you guys know he's going to go, I'm out. I'm going to go do something else, right? Because I can understand that. And then the said, what are we asking them to adapt to? What are we asking them to prepare for? And again, part of that comes into we're different. I program differently at 10th group than I did at 7th group. Climate, elevation, where our guys go, what they're asked to do, those are completely different. We're going to probably program different than 5th group, different than 1st group, because there's different things. So what are we asking our guys to do, or why? This is a huge thing. Our guys come in, and you can ask Kelsey, our dietitian, I want to do the paleo diet, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And in this talk, there's very varying degrees. Not everything's good or bad. A lot of times it's where can I apply this and is it optimal? Not what is good, what is optimal. So for our guys, we tell them, hey, I'm fit, right? I'm fit to do this. Well, yeah, you're fit to perform or to do a task, but do you have performance? So for us, performance is the relation of fitness and fatigue functions to elicit athletic-based outcome. Our guys are athletes at the end of the day. And the thing that I want to hit on is performance isn't always healthy. What they're asked to do isn't always healthy. Brian Mann talked about it yesterday. Football players, what they do, that isn't always healthy. Our guys, it's the same thing. They're in kit. They're doing things. They have that loading for 10, 20, 30 years sometimes. It may not always be healthy. And we get them to understand, unfortunately, sometimes we've got to prepare you to perform in an unhealthy environment. We had a guy that came back, and he's like, hey, man, I'm there for 5 hours in the middle of the night. Flashbang goes off. It's hitting the fan. I'm rolling for 3 days straight before anything ever gets to happen, before I'm coming back down. Okay, we all know that may not be healthy, but that's their performance. We've got to prepare that for them. We've got to inoculate that. So what do they come in with, right? Our guys, elite athletes in special operations, this is kind of what they have from a physiological, psychological, and an intangible standpoint. The biggest thing for us is the fact that once you get them trained to a good quality level, they have a hard time they don't detrain quickly. So those residuals for our guys, like if you look at block periodization, our residuals are really kind of at that top end, we've found. The biggest thing from a psychological standpoint is composed, present, confident, motivated. They got all of them. So for us, and I kind of hit it a little bit, the big buzzword is mental toughness. Right? We're going to make these guys mentally tough in the weight room. I don't know if I'd buy into that. What I think you do is you can facilitate and elicit more optimal mental functioning, right? And Nick, our mental performance guy, does that. What we do is our guys will come in sometimes and they'll go, I need you to smoke me today so that I can go home and be a good dad. Because I'm here, I'm redline, man, and I need to touch the curtain. Our guys call it touching the curtain. So our job is, can I give them something that's safe, that's effective, that's simple, so that they can do those things? Because guess what? If I tell a grown man no, well, he's going to go find another way to do it. And chances are he's not going to do it right. So giving them those things and these traits, we understand, okay, this is where, as a group, when we started asking why, we go, well, we know we got this right out of the chute. This is what they're bringing to us, okay? And now how can we facilitate that? How can we improve those things? So this is our process. I love our goal. This is a Tony-ism, or a Godfather-ism, as we say. Our goal is that when our guys go into the fight, they're going against the opponent and not themselves. And the opponent doesn't have to be a human. It can be elevation. It can be cold weather. It can be hot weather. It can be 40-hour or 48-hour rotations. It can be all those things. The opponent is transient. But if you go in, you're fighting the opponent. You're battling them. You're not thinking about you, your hamstring or your hip or your nutrition. You've got it dialed in. You're ready to roll. And then our process. So we have people that come visit us because apparently Paul's big time. So people will come and they'll want to say, you know, what do you guys do here, right? That's the question that we get all the time. What do you guys even do? And what's your program? And I say, okay, this is the variables of our program. If we break this thing down, okay, it's really, really simple. Volume, intensity, tempo, and rest. That can be conditioning. That can be strength. That can be our warm-up. That can be our cool-down. That can be sleep. That can be anything. That could be her nutrition plan has those same things in it, right? Volume, intensity, tempo, rest. Okay? And then we can manipulate those variables in any way that we want. So we get all that stuff, and then we're all sitting around, and sometimes it's really healthy arguing, and then that's what we came out with, though. Okay? So then we go, okay, well, that's what we know. What's our needs analysis based off of the traits that they have? Okay? Number one, physiologically, ability to produce and resist force. We got a lot of guys that can produce it. We got a lot of guys that can't resist it. Okay? So we know we're starting from there. Two, we use lactate as a guide to create energy system training methodologies now. We've really found that blood lactate for us, a little bit easier to test than the cart with the VO2, and two, it transfers a little bit more. Our guys have to have really, really good anaerobic properties. The other thing is if we know they're going to a certain selection or a school, maybe we need them to have a really, really long time before they hit threshold. So it actually validates what we're doing a little bit. So what we've really changed the game with that is using that lactate guide, and then on the back end, we get a bunch of good data because they got to go to David to do the lactate test. So now we get free data, and then we're giving them tangible conditioning stuff. So instead of saying, hey, I need you to go just run around Trojan Trail, which is our trail that goes around our unit, I need you to run Trojan Trail in this time. I need you to get on a rower, and I need you to do this heart rate for this long and then rest this long. And those are tangible, simple things that they understand. Okay, they're very intelligent. Our guys are going to ask us why, ask us how much, ask us how long. So if we give them simple things that are objective, they're going to have success. They're going to have that confidence to know, okay, I can do this and accomplish it. It's going to be hard. I have the discipline day in and day out because I know what to expect. I'm not having to come in. We had a guy go, I have to come in and I feel like all I ever do is hound you guys with questions. Well, that's not our goal, man. We're missing the mark if that's what we're doing. Nutritionally, I'm not going to hit on this because, as you can tell, I'm not a dietitian. But talking with Kelsey and Paul, food first, educate from the plate, and then understand the fitness versus performance mentality. And I would even slide that into the physiological side too a little bit. And then psychological, the biggest thing that Nick talks about, our guys are quiet professionals. He talks about low profile, high impact. From us as a staff and for our guys. So they come in, and a lot of times you get new guys that haven't been in it, and they're going to kind of come in and they want to have a high profile, high impact. And they learn very quickly that's not the way. And the great thing is we have all of our new incoming Green Berets, we have what we call OTC. They come in and we have them for a month. So we really get to, from our side, induct them into our program and show them these simple things. But we also tell them, if you're coming in and doing your work, you're creating the same type of environment that you have when you train. Low profile, high impact. And then Nick talks about this a lot. I know this has been hit on a little bit at the conference, so I'm kind of glad that we put it in, but the ability to perform under the most imaginable stress and be resilient to the chronic exposure of it. The most imaginable thing that you can think of they're exposed to. And then do it again, do it again, do it again. And then, hey, I got to come home and be dad, chauffeur, I got to go to the gym, I got to go train, I got to do all these things. So being able to help them from our side as a strength and conditioning program facilitate those chronic psychological and physiological workloads. So strength, this is one of Tony's favorite comic book characters, Pitt. I put him up because this is what our view of strength is right now. This is what our guys' view is, okay? I'll stand on my soapbox for a second. I changed my view of strength to 7th group when I had a guy that had one leg stood up out of a chair. And I said, you're telling me that's not strength? He's exerting force against an object. The object is the ground. He's standing. 2 weeks ago, he couldn't stand. That's a form of strength. That's an expression of strength. our guys a lot of times think this is the only strength that's there, or they think the opposite end, right? We're either super left or super right. But the truth is that it's just the generation of force against an object. The second thing is, and I stole this from Mel Siff, but somebody once told me if you say it once, twice, and then the third time, it kind of becomes your own as long as you put your own language on. But muscular action is functional, the growth is structural, right? So strength isn't just structural, all training is functional in nature, right? For us, the simplification of our program is, we got guys, when's the functional stuff? When are we doing that? I'm like, so you're telling me that that squat pattern isn't functional because I don't have a sandbag on one of my shoulders? Or I do a lunge and that's not teaching deceleration mechanics, and if I have really good form and function, that's not functional because I got a barbell on my back? Well, how about we teach these simple things and we teach really effective movement patterns and we become masters of the little things. We got a guy that can't squat his own body weight, but then people come in our weight room like, well, what do you think about putting him on that ball? Or what do you think about having him do this thing to this thing to this thing? And I go, well, the guy can't squat. But now we're going to go ahead and move him along 4 steps because that's the new functional thing. Well, if we really look at the origins of strength, all strength is functional. So the strength continuum, right? We all know this, and I guess I should have warned you that this is really, really easy, basic stuff. This is stuff that we learned in undergrad. But we had to revisit it because we kind of got away from it. You've got to have absolute strength and strength speed for the other two to occur. So anybody that tells you all I need to do is max, or all I need to do is strength endurance. If anybody, when we come in, if they give us an absolute, you're wrong. Because the answer is it depends. There's going to be guys that fall on one end of that spectrum or another based off of their body type, based off their MOS, as we know, right? If they're a Bravo, chances are they're going to be a big old meathead, man. Right? That's just how it goes. In fact, we have a Charlie that we work with, and I swore for like 6 months he was a Bravo, and then he got offended that I thought he was a Bravo. But you can see, are we a Halo team? So for you guys in any other realm, in any other tactical realm, understand that those things are going to have to be present. If you're a firefighter, if you're a cop, you may be in the car for a certain amount of time. You may be at the firehouse, and then you get called to go. You're going to have to elicit facets of all those things if we want good performance. So strength, and our guys are like, I want to be powerful. I didn't draw that Thor. I wish I would have. But what's power? They all say, I want to be powerful. We go, okay, well, what is it? We all think we know, right? But it's the ability to generate force rapidly. So what we tell our guys is, I got to employ strength and velocity, but I got to do it in the right time, in the right direction, in the right manner. If I don't do those things, then I just have power that's just all over the place, right? I'm just got that shotgun blast against the wall. It's not where they want to go. And as they said, where these guys want to go is this way. So if you give them that, okay, I want you to produce power, but it can't just be any type of power. It's got to be in the right direction, in the right time, in the right manner. So that's why instead of doing depth to rocket, instead of doing hurdle hops, instead of doing all those things, let's start with the very, very basics of plyometrics. We don't Olympic lift everybody anymore. Why? Because some guys can't do it. But we can throw a weight vest on them, and we can, before we do that, actually, we teach them plyometrics, and we teach them how to jump and land, and then we can throw a weight vest on them. Guys that want Olympic lift, okay, well, let's do it. But then we're going to make sure we do it so that we're eliciting the right power response that we want. Power continuum, right? Mean power, peak power. So then we teach our guys, well, where does this explosive strength happen? Well, I either have strength speed or speed strength. Rate of force development. Everybody talks about, well, what is it, man? It's the time that it takes to execute a movement, and it's the right time, the right amount, in the right direction. So we're like, okay, let's lay the groundwork for our program now. We know what strength is. We know what power is. We all agree on those commonalities. You know what, man? Squat is a great movement for us, for our guys to teach them that. If they can't squat, you know what's a great movement? Is sled. We use the sled a ton. We got a lot of lower back guys. In our bridge program, I probably use the sled to the point where guys get sick of it. Guys coming back from an ACL, throw your crutches in the front, man. We got one leg sled pushes today. So for us, we can use a squat, we can make it power, we can make it strength, we can make it functional, we can do all those things. But the great thing about the simplicity of it is these guys understand it. And I feel like if they don't understand it, we're failing them. We are failing our guys if all we're out for is our benefit. because I got to program the way that I want to program, and I'm an Olympic guy. So be damned if you're not going to do Olympic movements. Well, hey, man, who cares that he's got, C4, C5's got issues, and he's got L4, L5, discectomy before 3 years ago. He doesn't really like to Olympic lift, but he wants to produce power, but you're going to shove it down his throat. Might be the wrong answer, right? And then how can we have different versions for different guys? And that's where we really rely on our staff, like Logan. Hey, man, I think we can do a phase 1 this way, and then the exact same thing, I can do it this way, so that if this guy is an Olympic lifter, he has these things. If he's not or he can't, now we're going to give him version A or version B. So now that chief warrant officer has version A because he's got a bad back. But the young captain, he's a stud. He knows how to Ollie lift, right? He's a former. He's going to give option B. So now we've got really, really good simple program. It's the same program, but now guys are getting a little bit more individual with it. I know a lot of people may be doing this already, but for us it was the ability to do it in a simple, effective manner. And I think that's the difference. Energy system development, right? We all know this, phosphagen, glycolytic, and the oxygen or aerobic system. They have to have all three. And this is where the more that you get them to buy in. Why am I going backwards in an agility drill? Because I don't go backwards downrange. I'm sorry. Or I go this way, right? If I'm shooting, I'm going to go this direction, but I'm not going to go this direction. Why? Why am I doing the phosphagen system? Why am I sprinting right away? Well, I don't know, man. And then you relate it. Well, do you got to get out of a helicopter and go from here to there? Well, yeah. Boom. Done. That's sprinting, man. If I'm out of a cop car and I've got to chase a suspect, if I'm running into the firehouse and I've got to get all my stuff and throw my crap on the truck and then go somewhere, to relate it to other military realms. The bottom line is that if you can relate that to their job, they're going to buy in. Our agility drills are a little bit longer. We do a 6-cone instead of a 4-cone. We give them very, very basic movements. I'll talk about this, actually I'll go to it now. We change our philosophy. We go high-low principle. So if anybody knows Charlie Francis or now Derek M. Hansen, they talk about high-low. 75 below, 90 and above. We want to stay away from the middle, right? So we do education seminars once a month where we show our guys these things. The cool thing is that we've been able to correlate it to blood lactate levels and heart rate levels. So we can say, and we don't, like Charlie talked about high-low, don't say that, our guys don't want low. I'm not doing low, but if I go intensive or extensive and then I shift your rest variables, okay, I'll go for 3 minutes on and 1 minute off, but you only want me to go the Jacob's ladder at 80 feet a minute? Okay, I usually go like 120. All right, great, man, do 4. And then by set 2, they're like this, right? Okay, I get it, I'm bought in now. Extensive, intensive. But we've given them simple, tangible things because we can say, I need you to stay between this and this. Don't go above, don't go below. And as you guys know, these guys love that. They love that objectivity because that's how they operate. And we've given them that. When we went in, it was like, hey, just like I said, I mean, even with sprint stuff, hey, just do 10. I need you to do 8 to 12. And as soon as you fall below that mark, you're done. That's it for today. That is education to these guys, though, because we do this a lot more than we do that. It's different than normal athletics. So by giving them a range and by saying this is your distance or this is your heart rate, we've simplified it for them. And we've simplified it for us, so now we can collect and analyze data a little bit more efficiently. I think this is a Derek Hansen or a Charlie Francis quote. When we tell our guys, your CNS determines your ability and capabilities, but your preparation depends on the development of it. If you're redlined here all the time, and then you want to come in and we want to drink from that certain nervous system glass all day, and we want to add a little bit of chew, some booze, right, some uppers, some downers to that mix, then we're going to have nothing in our glass to be able to operate. And it's the same thing when they're in the weight room, right? If we give them a ton of nervous system components and then we want them to go sprint and then we want them to do that 3 or 4 times a week and then we wonder why they're hurt in 3 months. We wonder why we have hamstring issues. Well, they've never really sprinted the way that we've all come from an athletic realm and sprinted. We've got to teach them how to do those things. Easy way to do that, let's go high-low with it. Hey, I want you to do an agility drill. I want you, typically this agility drill takes you 10 seconds to complete. I want you to do it in 15 seconds. But here's what I want you to work on. I want you to work on angles. I want you to do these things. So now I've broken it down and simplified it. So for us, it's getting them to understand intensive, extensive, okay? And this is where we've alluded to, I keep harping on these guys, but for me as the component working with the staff, the ability for them to go to our data analyst and him go, yeah, this is exactly where you are. Not only that, this is where you compare to every other 18 series guy in group. That's the fun part. Oh, wait a minute. His blood lactates at like 14? I'm in, right? So we've created a nice little competition with these guys, which they love, and we can show them objectively, here's your MOS. Every other 18 Charlie, there's where they're at. Here's where you're at. You're below. We need to get you here, but here's how we're going to do it. And it's simple. They get their program and they roll, okay? So the application, right? Periodization. For us, everything goes back to linear and nonlinear. Like, we use block, periodization, and that's a different conversation and talking of itself, but everybody kind of knows those things. But for us, I want to do juggernaut. I want to do 5-3-1. I want to do German volume training. I want to do name it, right? But if you really get down to the nuts and bolts, it's either linear periodized or it's nonlinear. It's either undulated or it's linear. If we know a guy's going to a school and we have 8 to 12 weeks, we're going to throw him on a linear periodized program, okay? If we think we might have him, which is the majority of the time, we're going to undulate a little bit more. And we're going to use some block residuals within that. The performance for them and for us, so we're like, okay, we get our program, we're simplifying it, we're giving them really, really good stuff, we're excited about it. But what correlates to them? We all know that you're going to have to determine numbers. People want numbers. Numbers drive dollars, right? But can we validate it? Does it mean something to them? So for us, it's going, okay, well, how can we tell our guys this is why it matters? And then what does science tell us? What does the research say? Does it apply? It may not be good or bad. It just may not apply to our environment. But can we take something from that to help our guys out? And then what is needed, right? We need a holistic approach. I keep hammering on it. And if you're on a staff that maybe doesn't have that, reach out to people that do. Go to a different unit. If your fire department doesn't have it but somebody else does, go to them. What do they do? How can you facilitate some of that stuff in your program? And then what is our overall process? Now that we apply it the way that I feel has really grown our program is that we leave our ego out and we create longevity to optimal performance. We sit around a table and we go, it's not about me, it's about our guys. It's not about me signing my next book deal or my next internet article. It's about our guys performing longer, protecting our country, and hopefully surviving and staying alive while they're doing it. So with our physical therapists, with all those people, I'll get it a lot like, how do you guys function in the same room? Like strength coaches hate athletic trainers, and athletic trainers hate everybody, and right? And the truth is that we all sit down and we go, well, it's not about me or you, it's about him. So let's get over ourselves and let's talk about how we can get him better. And we've done that since day one, but we often have to remind each other of that because I'm very emotional, fiery. I think I have a little bit more Irish in me than I thought when I was younger. And as Rob Skinner says, I kind of operate off caffeine and spite a little bit. So it's awesome to have somebody like Logan who's always in a good mood because he kind of evens us out a little bit. And then you have your godfather. You have different pieces of the puzzle that interplay very, very well together so that when you sit down, everybody knows where you're coming from. Because if you're passionate and you're opinionated on what your topic is, the bottom line is that you're in it for the right reason. And I would say, hopefully you guys are in teams like that, that ultimately you're in it for the right reason to create optimal performance for your men and women. So for us, volume, intensity, rest, tempo, you guys can read it, but basically your left is a day or a week, and then your right's long term, okay? So what's our goal? What's our why? And this is the cool part, okay? So Adam, our first group, or 110 guy, and then David kind of expounded on that. This is where the cool part is for me, kind of being a little bit on the geeky side too, is we show them, look at that, volume, tempo, intensity, rest in the same program. So that's their main movement. That's block one. The red is, I got to do that first. Oh my gosh, tuck jump, that's really simple. Yeah, it is. We're going to get really, really good at it though, okay? Squat, dumbbell split squat. Well, that's really simple. Yep, Look at that. I got bilateral, I got unilateral. It's superset. Okay, what's my tempo? Boom, it's right there. So now I got a little bit of an eccentric component to it. What's my rest? It's right there. And this is where we've been really able to change the game, is that I went to Tony and I said, I think I got a thing, but I don't want to use it. We kind of know, science shows us that I can be between X percentage and Y percentage and I can get an outcome. It's a progressive overload standpoint. But our guys, if it says 275 only, I'm hitting that, even if I fail on set 1. And then I'm going to drive myself into the ground, because that's not the goal. But I went to Tony and I said, hey, in your 35 years of experience and what you know, what's our ranges per reps? And then I went to Dave and I said, hey, you're the Excel guru. I want to add, and Logan wants to add, these ranges into our program. Because if we tell guys, I want you to start on the left-hand column. If you can get to the right hand, money. If you can't because you had 3 hours of sleep, your wife's yelling at you, we finally got you off the monster, so that's good. But then you're going to be kind of running a little bit low. So set 1, set 2, we may be struggling to get 245, right? Or I had a PT test, or I had to do inventory until 4 a.m., and now I got to lift at 6 a.m. Those are all things that school didn't tell us, that the public doesn't tell us, that normal strength and conditioning doesn't have to deal with. So for us, that thing has been huge. But these guys, they're smart, so now they go, oh, okay, I get it. That's what your program's about. It's on your sheet. I can see that. So we kind of crammed everything in so that we have 1 month on a page. Because now not only can I see every single day, but I can see my progress over a month. I don't have to flip through 9 pages. It's right there for me. Then we can go back in and on his file, we can show him his progress, okay? This is the second thing that we were able to do on the back end. For us, as we design programs, there's our weekly volume. There's a 4-week program, linear, right there. So now we know what his tonnage is each week off his main movements. So when he comes in and he talks about, you talked about a little bit in your talk, right, where guys go, well, I want to do more. Well, hold on, man. Look where your tonnage is by week 4. This is where we wanted you to be. If you're a little bit fatigued, that's good, man. That's where we want you to be because we have the time. You're on block leave. What are you doing? You got 4 weeks where you can really hammer this thing home and get back in the game. So we're able to show them, and that's that iceberg, right? That's putting that together, learning from David, that's hugely complex for a guy like me. I'm left-handed, not that smart. So that Excel stuff has been key for us, but it also allows us to track a little bit. And all they see is that. That's all they see. And then this is kind of what we see when we develop our programs. So here's our auxiliary block. As you can see, plank hip extension side, plank hip lift. Very, very difficult. Okay, 10 minutes. So let me finish. I'm almost there. So all we did is intro, this is what we do. Here's our volume. Here's our intensity. Here's our rest. Okay. We explained during our education testing, when guys test with us, it's part of an education series. He goes through, this is what this means. Here's a program. Here's exactly where our 4 variables are. When you do a 5-10-5 as part of our TSAC testing, guess what you do in phase 1? 5-10-5. Phase 2, okay, let's make it a W drill. We have our sheets, you know how to move a little bit. Now I want you to do it 4 times, 6 times. We've actually expanded upon this, David and I with Logan, and this is what we've created now, okay? So we took our blood lactate levels and we said, you know, this looks kind of familiar. We took it from block periodization, but we said, we kind of have little different zones. So A1, A2, anaerobic 1, anaerobic 2, and then speed power. And we base it off our high-low. So now we're able to give more specific from W drill. I want you to do it 4 times, 6 times, 6 times, 8 times. Now I can go, okay, I'm going to give you this sheet with your program, and then I'm going to give you on the back side of this, there's options. So if I have speed and power on the back side of this page, and I couldn't put it up here, but it'll say 3 options. You pick, 1, 2, 3. I either have W drill, I have 6 cone, I have one other thing. That's what you pick. And in that option, it gives them the exact heart rate zone if it's, right, A1s, especially A1s for these guys, because they always either climb to the middle. For them, it's usually never too low. They always want to go too high. So we give them those specific zones in our energy systems chart. So kind of closing out a little bit, I guess the biggest thing that I've learned from older people and as I continue to grow in my career and as a coach is ask why. Why are we doing what we're doing? When I come to a clinic like this, there's great, great minds, and I want to pull stuff. And in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, why? Can I get a benefit? It's not maybe good or bad, but can this apply to our guys? Can it help them get better? The second thing is the basics work. So these things, those two things, that works. That RPE chart works. It shows them. It's tangible. It's simple. How well did you sleep? How hard it was? That squat, split squat, that works. Those simple things work as long as we do them very, very well. And it creates confidence, growth, and buy-in, which is just trust. It creates that awesome feeling to know that they're literally, like I had a guy tell me, just so you know I'm putting your life, or my life, in your hands. Their number one thing, availability. If they're not available, they can't be a teammate. If they're hurt and they're not available, they don't make money when they deploy. If they're not available, they can't perform the function of their MOS and be that integral part of their team. So create that buy-in for us, that trust is huge. And we do it by being basic about we go. We chase the rabbit hole in conversations, but really we come back to we just want to manipulate our basic variables. So all of our programs, intro phase 1 to phase 5, all we do is manipulate volume, intensity, tempo, rest. Back squat, front squat, zerker squat. Back squat at tempo, back squat at speed. Front squat at tempo, front squat at speed. We just take those basic things and then all we do is manipulate those. That's it. If anybody has any questions, I'll be around. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you sitting in.